The new Hearthstone patch came a couple of days ago, and we already have some good stats on HS Replay Premium. So in this video, we will see what the stats show the best Hearthstone decks are right now. So if you're serious about Hearthstone, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget you can hire me for some Hearthstone coaching. Now, let's check out the decks.
You are not prepared!
So here's what the meta report shows from Diamond to Legend for the last one day, and as you can see, Hound Hunter seems to be the best performer so far. Even though it did have one of its cards nerfed, it was super meaningless, and the deck still shows to be very strong. We can also see two variants of Shaman being actually very good right now, which is kinda surprising, and you will have to take that with a grain of salt, but this is what the stats show. We also have Enrage Warrior at the top, which is probably not a surprise to most, and we also have Thaddeus Druid, which is extremely high rolly right now. At the top of tier 2 we can also see things like Relic DH, Undead Priest, and also Face Hunter, which is basically still the Beast Hunter but with a bunch of Nagas. Pure Paladin is still at the top of tier 2, so that's still usable, and the rest goes lower and lower, so probably stay away from those. And we can also check out from top 1000 Legend that Evolve Shaman is actually at the top, which is very weird, and I'm not really sure how correct this is because I can't see any streamers actually playing this right now at top Legend. Miracle Rogue seems to be also doing well apparently, and we also have things like Undead Priest, Frost Decay, Unholy Decay, and still Enrage Warrior. Outcast Demon Hunter is also great, and Totem Shaman is actually pulling its weight on the higher ranks too. Same goes for Relic DH. Anyway, starting off with the first deck on the list, we have Beast Hunter, and this variant has a lot of stats and a very high win rate, like almost 60% with above 8,000 games. It's literally the same deck I showed you already, so no reason for us to talk too much about it, but like I said, Hope of Kel'Thuzad got bumped with one less attack, and same goes for Pozic, but as you can see, it's still doing very well. The main reason for that is, you're very strong on the board and you keep on refilling, and even though if the opponent actually does chip you down a little, you have a couple of big Hollow Hounds which can basically heal you back to full. The new Star Power is also an excellent control tool, so you can actually drag out the game long enough for Faithful Companion to pull something like Double King Crush or whatnot. And you also have Stranglethorn Heart if the game actually takes that long. Matchup wise, here's what the stats show, and Thaddeus Druid would be a problem, and also Pure Paladin used to be a problem, but not a big one, but now that matchup is gonna be a lot less frequent, so you should have a lot better time climbing. Mulligan wise, here's what the stats show, and Pozic is at the top of the keep list, but this stat is before the nerf, so take that with a grain of salt. But the Spirit package is pretty good. Vicious Slitter Spear is amazing on turn 1. Barrel of Monkeys is great. Trinket Tracker so you can fish out your bananas is also great. And if you actually already have the Vicious Slitter Spear, you can just straight up keep the bananas as well. Weapon is still gonna be amazing, and the Musician is also not bad. Don't get baited into keeping Selective Breeder too much, it's not what you want to be doing in the early turns. And when on the coin, here's what the stats show again, and it's literally the same thing. Calderon becomes a bit more keepable here, but I wouldn't mind him going first as well. On the number 2 spot, we have Enrage Warrior, and I still believe that the variant with Grow Mash is just a bit better. There are similar variants that are running the Crazed Wretch, and that also has decent stats, but when you check the VODs, the big players are still running the one with Grow Mash instead, so I don't know, I still believe this one would be just better. This variant is also running the Treasure Guards, which are fitting excellent in here because they're very tall, so you can actually use location on them to enrage them, and they also protect your Anima Extractor so well, not to mention they're also a Naga, so your Roaring Applause also draws you extra. And the Treasure Guard alone also draws, so this definitely helps this deck a lot, because sometimes it does feel like it's lacking a little bit of the draw. Other than that, we're also running the new Jam Session, which is just fitting in perfectly, but the rest is straight up Enrage Warrior, so you can check out my videos about it. Matchup wise, again, Thaddeus Druid seems to be very hard for it, and also Control Priest is not too fun, even though you could be smart about it and actually kill him from hand like that, but it's definitely a tricky matchup. Totem Shaman seems to be on the negative, as well as Miracle Rogue, Thaddeus Warlock as well, and again, Pure Palia was something that was not super great for it, but now it's not as popular. As for the mulligan, Tori Belor, Egg, Anima Extractor, Free Mana Chorus Rift, Location, Treasure Guard, and heck, even the Bridge Rift can be great. The weapon I'd also say would be great, especially if you're curving into it, and depending on the matchup, even the Sun Fury Champion might make sense. As for when on the coin, here's what the stats show again, and it's literally the same thing, but even things like Embers of Strength might make sense, so keep that in mind. If you already have a good one drop, even Jam Session might make a lot of sense in certain matchups, so keep an open mind for it as well. On the number 3 spot, we have Thaddeus Druid, which is actually a very high rolly cheesy deck, with which you can cheat out a lot of crazy wins. Right now, this seems to be the best performing variant, and you could literally be pulling out a turn-free Thaddeus with this one, and if you don't believe me, you can check out my last video. We're also running ETC in this one, and what you have in this one is Tony, Rivendare, and Ozumat. Tony can be pretty good if you actually combo it with Jailer, and you don't even need to be doing this in the same turns, like you can literally play Jailer and then Tony, and if the opponent doesn't have a way to actually destroy your immune Tony with some AoE, you are gonna be keeping the full deck and they're gonna be fatiguing. Rivendare can be good against control decks like Priest, even though they do have tools to play around it, it's still gonna cost them some tempo. And with Ozumat, you can obliterate any aggro deck because they're gonna have a very hard time dealing with all of those tentacles. Not to mention you can also trigger it the same turn you play it with the Hedge Maze. We also have Fanboy in here, which helps you basically heal back to full in combination with Mishmasher, and the main combo with this one is you want to have your Hedge Maze and try to early game Dev Blossom into using the location, and that usually pulls you a Flesh Behemoth, which in turn can pull out Thaddeus super early. Don't forget that the only Death Rattle minions you're running in this one are the 2 Flesh Behemoths, so if you already drew both of those, don't bother trying the Dev Blossom. Trust me, I've tried and it doesn't do shit. We also have the new Doomkin in here, which is super annoying because not only are you ramping, but your opponent is also losing a mana crystal, so the gap becomes even bigger, and you have a ton of ramp in this one too. With Eterniate Maw, you can also make your Mishmasher basically delete the entire board without taking any damage, and don't forget that if you actually stick a Mishmasher on the board and you can attack face with it next turn, it's still gonna attack every other minion after you've attacked face. As for Kolak in here, it's not a bad inclusion, but if you don't have it, you can definitely try the deck without it. Matchup wise, we really don't have that much stats for this one, but as you saw, it's actually pretty effective against the other popular decks right now. As for the mulligan, you want to be keeping your Dev Blossom usually, as long as you're not expecting some super fast aggro deck. Hedge Maze I'd say is always a keep, Innervate can also be a great keep, Aquatic Form helps you fish out your core pieces, Wild Growth is nice, and even Nourish might make the cut, but I'd rather be keeping the Wild Blossom instead because it usually draws you either Nourish or Innervate. On the number 4 spot, like we said, Evolve Shaman is doing surprisingly well, and this is the best performing variant right now, and it is running quite a few new cards in here. We have the good Evolve package that Evolve Shaman used to run before, we also have room for Astlor in here, the weapon helps you go wide, Primordial Wave is a no-brainer, we also have the new Remix Totem Carver, which can summon you a very nice totem, Backstage Bouncer works extremely well in this one because you can transform a worthless totem with this one, or you can also transform the Baroness, which is also going to be excellent because you basically get the 4/5s for free. School Teacher fits nicely in here because you can discover extra evolve effects, or just something else which you need. Famished Fool helps you with the card draw. Rodgill is also great because you usually go very wide. You have room for 1 Horn of the Windlord here, but you can also swap it out for Jive Insect if you feel like it. Things from Below usually drop super early at a very big discount, and you also have the new Pack the House, which can flood the board with a bunch of minions, which you can easily evolve. Matchup wise, again, we don't have that much stats, but apparently Pure Paladin was holding it back, and also Blood Death Knight is not gonna be your friend. As for the mulligan, we don't have too much stats for that either, but this is what it shows. I'd say Torguide is great, Muckpool, Convincing Disguise, the weapon, Remixed, Schooling always a keep, and maybe even a Backstage Bouncer, especially if you're going second. As for Totem Shaman, the list looks pretty much the same as the one we used to been seeing, and you also have the new Magata in here, because you don't really have that much spells in this one. And the matchups here show that Hound Hunter is not gonna be great for you, but not by much, so you should be able to climb nicely with it. As for the mulligan, going through it quickly, here's what it looks like going first. You basically want to be curving out nicely, and the Grand Totem plus Stone Wraith are gonna be great for you. And as for going second, here's what it shows again, and it's basically the same thing. And on the last spot, we have Relic Demon Hunter, which has been feeling absolutely amazing for me, and I did try it right after the patch came out, and I was crushing it entirely. The card that really felt amazing in this one was the Prosecutor, and if you timed this correctly, while flooding the board with something like a big Relic of Phantasms, it can be absolutely brutal. We're also running Enchanters in here, and that helps you very much because not only does it double up AoEs like Unleash Fel and whatnot, it also doubles up your hero power damage, your minions damage, and all around it's just helping you trade the board a lot more efficiently. We're still running Pozic in here, and it can feel pretty good because it does force your opponent to play slower. We have Xylag, which is extremely powerful, especially if you pull it out early, and on an empty board. board, and Zymox is at the end, and it can be a pretty big bomb turn. Photographer Fizzle helps you not run out of steam, and it also copies the discounts you could be getting out of your Relic of Dimensions, so it could be great when you pull it like that. And yeah, it's basically good old Relic DH, and you can check out my videos about that one too. Matchup wise, here's what it shows, and again, Thaddeus Druid is not gonna be great for you, even though I do believe I did face one of those there, and it didn't feel hard at all, but I guess it didn't curve out or something. Spell DH used to be a hard matchup for this one, and so was Pure Pally, but with those going lower in popularity now, you should have a lot easier time. Frost Death Knight is supposedly a hard matchup for you, but I had absolutely no issues against them, and Unholy Death Knight and Hound Hunter can also be somewhat problematic, same goes for Enraged Warrior. As for the mulligan, going first, here's what it shows, and you want your good relic package. Zymox might also make sense against lower matchups, but usually it's a bit too greedy of a keep, especially if you already don't have some good stuff. I would also keep Phantasms, Solidary Studies helps, Dalnos can also be good, and he's also an undead, so he can chain you into a Nerubian Vizier. Fellerin can be great, and Taste of Chaos as well. As for when on the coin, it's basically the same thing. This Xylek here definitely looks like a bait, and I'm not sure why 1.6% kept it. Taste of Chaos becomes even better, same goes for Vizier and Fellerin. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing in the early days after the patch. I will be doing an update video once we get a bit more stats here, so don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next stream or video.